I had a whole thing. I didn't add myself to the screen when I did that.
CJ.
Anyway, hi everybody. It's Sunday, and it's Sunday Night Teacher Talk at 1 p.m. Which I know I mention this all the time. It just cracks me up. So, what we're doing here is trying to help you to look. There's ways to deal with being afraid. You can run from stuff, but I had a spiritual mentor that one time he said like he was having reoccurring nightmares of something happening in his life. And he's like, I kept trying to climb this mountain for whatever reason. And this like terrifying like creature kept chasing him when he got almost to the top, and he would turn around and run. And so he's like, one time I just decided like, what would happen if I ran through it? So when it happened, he ran up the mountain, ran at the creature. And I said, what happened? And he goes, it just dissipated and like evaporated into the air. And that was so profound to me. And he said, like, what if you just ran towards your troubles? This was the crux of our conversation. What if you just ran towards your troubles? And so I think that's what this is in large part, is that on Sundays, you could be just like starting to drink a little bit early. I mean, it's okay, right? It's 1 o'clock. You could drink now and like not feel bad about yourself.
Stop it, man.
You could go to bed. You could just watch TV all day. You could get caught up in 1,000 other things, but instead you're showing up to become the best version of yourself. And so what we're doing here is we're asking questions and getting answers. It's not just me. If you have something to share, please put it in the chat. You can find everyone asking and talking and sharing ideas and questions and things of that nature in there. So be a part of it. Be a part of someone's solution this week. So before we jump into the first question, I want to address something that came up in the Facebook group. And I'm not going to address the exact thing that someone said in the Facebook group. I just want to address this quote right here, right? You belong everywhere, which is clearly not spelled right. Feeney's a little crooked this week too, but side note, ADD moment. I spoke at a school in Florida virtually, and they asked who this guy was that I had in the picture behind me. And I was like, yo, girl, you're old enough to know. That's Feeney, the greatest fictional teacher of all time. Anyway, this quote comes from a poem that I have linked in the description of this video. If you're on, should show up on Facebook too, but it shows up on YouTube, by my favorite poet in the world, Derrick Brown. Has a publishing company called Right Bloody Publishing. And so he wrote a poem. He has a book called I Love You. I think it's You're the Butterfly Knife. He wrote a poem called To the Lightning Teachers. And in that poem, he has this line that says, a teacher once told him, you belong everywhere. And so since my first year in education, I've been signing notebooks to this or yearbooks. I've been writing it on notes to kids. I've been like, I used to handwrite all the graduates' letters, which I do not do anymore. It is an enormous undertaking. I still do it to select students, but I do not do it to everyone anymore. And I would always sign it. Don't forget, whatever the world tells you, that you belong everywhere. And so then I would sign my name. And several years ago, a young woman called me, and she's grown now, married, I think she has 4 kids. She was at the time working for Comcast in like their like higher up in the business. Had, been through a family, like they were immigrated here from Nicaragua. They went through like their family separated, all this crazy family drama came up, and like got pregnant in high school, like all this stuff happened in her life. And so she calls me to ask me about something else. And she said, I want you to know, and I wanted to ask you this before I got it done. My senior year of high school, you wrote me this letter and you signed it, you belong everywhere. And then Mr. Reynolds. And she said, that quote has stuck in my mind for the last 10 years or whatever it was at that point. And she said, as I was going through college, as I was pregnant with my baby in high school, as I was working my way up the hierarchy of this corporate chain as a woman of color, as a single mom. And that, man, this makes me emotional. That quote kept coming back to me. And so I want to get it tattooed on my arm, but in your handwriting. And she did. She, on her forearm, in my handwriting, she has the quote, "You belong everywhere." And so, like, I've been saying this quote forever, for as long as I've been in education. But it wasn't until that moment that was such a confirmation and a reminder to me that the things we say to students, the things that happen in our classrooms that we might not even remember. I don't remember writing that particular letter. I know I've written many of them, but like students that come back after years and they go, "This one time you said this one thing to me," and that could be a not good thing. I've had kids that come in like, "Yeah, you really hurt my feelings." I was like, "Oh, damn, bro, that was a decade ago. Apologize. Let's work that out." But it is, the power that we have to love people, to show up, to bring value to their lives cannot be underscored. And it doesn't mean that you have to have someone get, something that you said tattooed on them. Although that's a pretty cool feeling, and have it in your handwriting. But it's this idea of, what I want my students to know is that you do belong everywhere. Don't, like, the world's going to tell you either in a passive aggressive way or right to your face that you don't belong in the boardroom, on the court, with your own business, in that neighborhood. And I want you to know that you do. And so that's where I was coming from for that. I just wanted to share that little story as we jump into this. But what do we got, wife?
Oh, our first question comes from Laura.
Love it.
She's asking, "Hello, Reynolds and not so secret wife." Hello. Had a really rough year last year, leaving me with kindergarten PTSD. How do I start the new year fresh? Not sure the summer has healed me completely. Oh, I feel like that's such a common narrative for teachers. Like when they go back, it's not always the most rejuvenating. And what do you do when that's not the case? That's a tough one.
It not really.
I'm glad you got it. Well, I'm going to say we've been there. We've had many summers where we expect it to be super rejuvenating and it's just not.
Well, look at this summer too, right? Like,
yep,
we had plans this summer that we were going to go for the first time ever. We were going to go to Colorado and spend time with my wife's family out there. And we had it all planned out. There's someone, I have a friend I've been mentoring forever that we were going to meet face to face for the first time after like talking on the phone for like doing mentoring calls for, how long?
Forever,
like,
but that's okay.
4 years, something. I don't know. It feels like an old friend now. And so, but money didn't work out, right? Like we were supposed to get, well, I'm not sharing too much here, but like, we work with brands and sometimes brands pay on time and sometimes brands are like, "Oh, we have up to 90 days. And they really held to it. And we were like, "Damn, bro, like we were planning on something. We already made the stuff." Anyway, it just didn't work out. And so I really try and design a summer that has an enormous amount of rejuvenation in it, but it just doesn't always work out. I mean, like, we live 50 minutes from the beach in New Jersey. And we just went down this last week for the first time because we've been so busy this summer. And so I hear you. What do we do with that? Because it's real easy to lament. I have learned, though, that when the time gets short, when you have the whole summer, it just feels like, we'll just do it tomorrow. We'll do it next week. We'll do it, whatever. That's how I roll sometimes. That if I pack a bunch into a week, so I have a very busy week this week, right? The boot camp is coming up on Tuesday and Wednesday. If you've not signed up yet, I think registration's closing Monday at noon. So there's still time to sign up, but like there's preparation for that. There was getting all the stuff ready for that, getting all the resources ready for that. There's so much going on, but we're still planning out in the week. Like, when can we go see this thing? There's this movie that I want to go see with a buddy of mine this week. Like, when can I do that? It's planning out the rest of the time that you have. So instead of getting stuck in what time you don't have and planning out for that, but then it's also planning for the future, right? What are you shaking your head for?
Well, I'm not shaking my head. There's a second part to our question that you're missing. It's not just about the time of the summer. It's about, she has PTSD. So when you go, think of the school year. I'm just trying to like back on track to her question of like when you've had really, really tough, like emotional years or scarring years or really difficult years. And then you go through the summer and you're not completely rejuvenated or healed from it. How do you go into the school year the next year?
You have to elongate the healing process.
Okay. And how do you do that?
And I think you do that by planning going into this year. And sometimes it's not just coffee with friends. It's not just drinks on Fridays, although those things are great. Like, you should build in that time for yourself. Sometimes it's a deeper healing. It's like maybe considering, like, is this something I should go to therapy for? Because maybe there's some stuff that I need to work on in me that's going to help me in the classroom. I'll say I went back to therapy this last year after like a couple of years off. And it was like in the first session, my man was sharing stuff and talking about stuff. And especially with regards to how I parent, that I was like, I didn't even think that was part of what was going on with me. And so, if the blessing of being a teacher is a lot of us have like really good health insurance, and like, you might be surprised like how much is there to cover that. Well, I'm just saying.
I know. That's a whole nother rabbit we could chase. Literally, someone was posting I saw on Instagram, and she was a teacher, and she was talking about how terrible her health insurance, and it made me think, gosh, that's usually not the case. Usually it is pretty decent, but I think it's been shifting for quite a few folks.
Yeah.
So I just want to
it's worth
out there for that.
But it's literally building some of those things into your year, because you can only give what you have. So you need to pour into you, need to be the number one thing, not your kids, not your husband, not your dog, and I love my dog. I like that I didn't say that about my kids or my wife, but it's pouring into you on some uncanny level, and knowing that the greatest investment you can make in the world is in you. And when I think about that, it didn't used to make sense. This is the last thing I'll say, but that's the books, the podcasts, the music, the events, the friends, the activities. It's pouring into me. The therapy, the spiritual direction, the masterminds that I take, the coaching sessions that I do, the coaching one-on-one sessions that I get, all that stuff. I just envision it as like I am dumping enormous amounts of good into me. And that has to be a part of my process. And I just know that it is. And when I don't, I get screwed up. Like, it starts really,
it just comes back out, right? You're putting so much goodness into yourself. Like, it just exudes back out of you into everything you do.
Stare on everybody.
I know, right? I really think that's it. I think it's like, how do you still heal? Yeah, you have to continue it, and I think you have to schedule it.
And you have to know it's a lifelong process too.
When you're
right?
busy, like as an adult with kids and family responsibilities, job responsibilities, all the things, self-care, it's like it literally has to get on the schedule, just like everything else.
Now, look, I don't teach kindergarten, but I will say this is why I mentioned, and whether it's me or whether it's someone else, it doesn't matter to me as long as you get the help that you need. This is one of the reasons we started offering one-on-one mentoring. And so you can go right to our website and get the information about it and the prices and stuff like that. But we created this because we wanted to create space for educators to be able to get the help that they needed. But like again, I don't teach kindergarten, but I teach, and I've, just done a lot of research on this. So anyway, that's there. I just wanted to put that out there, and, but there might be someone in the world that's even better suited. I don't know, but.
All right. Well, our next question is coming from Miss Gonzalez. It's a two-parter. She's asking, have you heard of the 20% project where the students do sort of an independent project, 80 at school and 20 at home? I don't like sending work home for my kids, but what about a choose your own project type thing where they are certain days during the week / month they could work on it? Thoughts?
So this is interesting. I mean, I've heard of the 80-20 principle in a number of different regards, but I don't like giving homework either, but the dog's really having a hard time with the door being closed.
He doesn't know that he doesn't really want to be in here because he's
going to sweat to death. No one knows. No, we are in a room surrounded by soundproof blankets with no air conditioning. That's where I am, and tons of bright lights on me right now. Which is why my face gets redder and redder as the day goes on. I don't like giving homework either, but if I was giving homework that might be enjoyable to students, something that they like, something that builds them more, I mean, like, I consider it. I mean, I think it might be worth an experiment and seeing how it goes, and then constantly checking in with kids, seeing how much they're actually doing it. One of the reasons I don't like giving homework is, at least at my school, is that it is sometimes a place where, like, kids it's not quiet. They don't have supplies. They don't have good internet. They don't have, it's not conducive to doing work. And so when you live in a house with a lot of people and you share a bedroom with 3 brothers and it's all bunk beds and madness and like, you know, because boys are at least like, I'm just thinking of like my Zoom experience with school. There was a young man that really, really was trying to pay attention, and his like 5-year-old brother was like launching off the top of the loft bed and trying to jump on another one while we were in class because he had a break. And so when I think about kids at home doing homework, I'm like, this ain't this, like even doing work in my house. I got to go out sometimes. I got to go to the library. I got to go to Starbucks or something like that. So it's that's part of the reason I stay away from that. So, but I think all things are worth an experiment. If you think, hey, this might work, like there might be something to this, give it a shot. If it doesn't work, just own it. Own your mistake. Talk to the kids about it. Oh, all right, this didn't really work. Thought it was. Wanted to do it. But if it's not, then just get rid of it. Are you sidetracked right now?
Yeah, because the dog wants to go out, I think. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll handle that.
Tell a child.
You keep doing it. Keep going.
So sorry, everybody. You know, it gets real. See exactly what I'm talking about. Trying to do a podcast in your house, and
the dog's got to go out. I got to text the kid to come take her.
Then they're gonna come down all loud and stuff. So anyway, that's what I would do. I would just give it a shot. I've not heard of that, but I have heard of, and I have tried the flipped classroom, where your students are doing like all the reading in school, and then like for literature classes, and then they're like doing the written component or the answering questions or whatever it is at home. But like I said, I just got away from it and tried and fit it into class. You want to give me another question real quick?
Yes.
And then handle the dog.
Yeah.
I love that you're my co-host now.
I know that you swindled me into being your co-host.
No, I just helped you realize that.
Oh yeah, my greatness.
Part of your strength. Yeah.
Oh, thanks. All right, our next question is from Miranda. I want to love and live a real life outside of work. During the fall, I have a lot of 6-day weeks. Advice for keeping that balance and filling my bucket outside of school.
I'm really curious, Miranda. Why do you have a 6-day week? What's that? What's going on there? Is that school like mandated? I think, look, one of the things we have to remember is that the work is never ending, right? Any job really. I mean, unless you like, you know, maybe if you're like I guess no, that's not always. But we because I'm just thinking of like if I worked like as a bartender or a construction worker that didn't own the business, I go home and I'm not like thinking about what I'm going to do tomorrow. But the work we do as educators is never ending. You could spend 24 hours a day in your classroom and never be completely done because you're always wanting to improve and get better and do more and like connect more. And there's always kids that need like endless amounts of help or attention or love or whatever. And so when I think about that, I think like, how do we live a real life? You have to leave when the bell rings. And so last year, for the first time ever, unless I was doing a YouTube video, I left at the end of the day. Like for the first time in my entire career, like the bell rang and I was like, all right, locking my door, said goodbye to a couple of kids in the hallway. If someone needed me or needed help or something like that, I'd stay after. If I was shooting a YouTube video, stay after. But if it was just nothing like really going on, I just left because the kids are just going to find somewhere else to hang out anyway. I already came in early. I already ate lunch with you twice today. You already hung out in my room during my other prep period. So I would build days in where I would stay, but for the majority of those days, like when school was over at, I don't know what time school was, I forget. Let's say it's 3:00. If you're out in your car by 3:05 and driving home, that means leaving Philly, I would miss all the traffic. I'd get home. And if I get home by 3:35, that means in the winter, it's still light. Like that's like.
Your earliest was like kind of like right before 4.
Yeah. But even still, right?
Yeah.
Like that's
if you got home at 3:45, it was like,
well,
what?
Then I started pulling this stuff. And I don't recommend everyone do this, but I had off 8th period. I had a prep 8th period. And if I didn't have anything to prep, or if I was all caught up, or I felt like I was in a good place, I'd just leave early.
This is CJ's rebel side, and he can't help this. I'm
help
telling everybody now, this is part of his DNA, literally his wiring. It came up in his DISC assessment. We did a DISC assessment, a DISC. Apparently, I think you could just go online and do them. We had Romina did one, and she found out who she is through that, and that's been really interesting. So if you're into that sort of stuff, that's kind of fun. But we found out CJ is a natural rule breaker.
It is.
So
that's why I think I want to start using this. I love when Chris Carson calls. He has they call him Reynolds rascals. And I love this idea of being a rascal, right? You're kind of mischievous, but it's like not really bad, but you're just kind of like.
Well, I think that's where it came from. That's your isn't that our newsletter? Is that the title?
No, that's Reynolds Ramblings.
Oh, geez, there's so many.
There's a lot of Reynolds,
I know.
And then a thing. But the rascals, I love that idea. I feel like that should be like the name of like our Facebook group. Even though I know that's innately me and not everybody else, but this idea of like being a rascal, right? But then like you leave early, and I would get home even earlier, and I was like, dude, this is awesome. So it's intentional, building intentionality around your time. And then I think the other thing is really just being where you are, right? Multitasking is not a thing. If you think I'm going to tell you right now, keep it as real as you can get. If you think multitasking is a thing, it is not. They have done studies on this where it says you can't half-ass two things. You can only whole-ass one thing. You can't whole-ass two things. It's impossible. So it is focusing on the thing that you're doing when you're doing it. And then I think a large part of that is leaving school when the school day is over.
Absolutely. Okay, our next question comes from Julia, and she's over on Facebook. Just a reminder, you can join us on Facebook too. Woohoo! All right, she's asking, how do I start implementing independent reading? I had some of the same 9th graders last year, and they are going to say, didn't we do this last year? They're all pretty insecure about their reading abilities and find the idea hilarious.
All right, so one, we never base what we're going to do this year on who got left back, right? Hands down. I have kids that are like, wait, we're reading this again? Wait, didn't we watch this movie last year? You said that joke before. No, I said it last year when it was new to you. And now you took the repeated version, and now I'm not going to come up with all new material. So I've been working on some of these jokes for, over a decade. So,
You literally have, which is why I don't laugh at them anymore.
No, and we go out places
get mad, and I'm like,
your husband's so funny. This. And you're like, yeah, I've heard this for 20 years, this joke. So that's one. I think the conversation with those students though, too, like, and I have there's a whole video on YouTube about this, but when students get left back is, I think, pulling them aside at the beginning of the year and having a conversation about like, look, this is going to be all the same stuff for the most part, but you don't have to be the same student. Like, I want you to win. And so now, because I know who you were last year and I know what you're capable of and where your struggles are, I'd really like to help you find success this year on a new and uncommon level, maybe. So that's a conversation I have with all students that are repeating a class from me, whether it's for the grade or just for my class. The other thing is really being mindful of like, how are you approaching independent reading? So I approach independent reading like, dude, this is the greatest thing we're going to do all week. This is my favorite day of the week is Wednesday, because we do independent reading. And so we used to do it for the whole period. Then periods got longer. When it used to be, my periods were 42 minutes. That was all right for most of my classes. Then when I started teaching co-taught classes, which really in my school was code for, we're going to give Reynolds all the kids that like get in trouble in all the other classes and have undiagnosed learning disabilities that we don't plan on actually addressing, but we're just going to put them in a class because his classroom management's good. That's what that's code for. So happily do it.
They're your specialty.
It's my favorite. And so it is getting those students in class and realizing that we can't read for 30 minutes, right? But 10 minutes independently by yourself is a big deal. Then my view is I want to make this the best. So sometimes there's snacks involved. Sometimes it's you can sit anywhere in the classroom that you want, or laying anywhere in the classroom that you want. You can read anything you want for the most part, right? And then I order books for kids. And if you can't order books for your school already has a library, get a donor's choose. Have an Amazon wish list that people can go on and give stuff.
She does say that. She said, noteworthy, we also have no school library and no funding for books. I have my first thrifted collection starting up, though.
So
That's a good point. There's like tons of books. People are constantly getting rid of books, like at thrift stores.
So
I
I
have to
go
do a little digging.
Thrift stores are good. Your local library. Our local library is
Oh, that's
constantly
true.
giving books away. They have 4 giant bookshelves when you go in, and there's always stuff. And so you can sometimes get some really, really good reading material there. My friend Jen Jones says that you should always have a donor's choose going on, because every once in a while you get like a Bill and Melinda Gates type person that comes in and just pays for all of them, and everybody gets their stuff. It's good to have an Amazon wish list. It's good to put in a purchase request. Like just ask the school for some of you might be saying right now no, but it's just, if you don't ask, the answer is already no anyway.
Yeah.
So I learned that.
Someone said that already in the comments.
Yep. I used to get $1,000 a year for books. Then that went down to $300 a year for books. And then prices went up for everything after COVID, which made last year really difficult. But what I found was literally like 80% of the teachers in my English department weren't ordering their books. So I just kept asking to order books because the money was still there in the budget. So I just kept ordering books and books and books and books. And then it's an event. We do unboxings when the books come in. It's like, oh, snap, here's the book. Oh, man, Darius, here comes your book. DeMario, here comes, like, I remember you ordered this and here it is. And this is what it's about. Bam, brand new book. And then you get it. And so that's a big deal. And then it's talking to kids about reading, talking to them about what I'm reading, talking to them about books that are coming up or what I just heard about or what I read last night. I just want to share this idea with you real quick, even though I know we're about to get in the class, but I'm so excited about this. It is doing that. And then that's part of the way you start building a culture of reading. And that's what it is. It's building this culture of reading, getting kids excited, posting books all around your room, having bulletin boards in the hallway with what every English teacher in the school or every teacher in the school, what you're reading right now. And then they change that out as the year goes on and they're reading new stuff. It's building that culture. And that's part of the way our team has been able to do that. And this is not all my ideas. A lot of like my friends, Randy and my buddy Witter, came up with this whole program for our school that was really wonderful and has had a lasting impact.
All right. Our next question is coming from Jamie. Oh, she's on Facebook too.
Nice.
I just changed districts and my new team is very welcoming.
Love it.
However, the after hour texts have already begun. I don't want to seem non-participatory or not as a team player, but I need the boundary of disconnecting from work when home. Please advice.
I think, Jamie, this is a pretty common issue.
I feel like it's like people treat you how you
teach them
to treat you.
Yeah.
I love that saying.
And so here's my version of this, right? You might say something a little bit different. I like to say everything with a smile. First of all, let me just say how happy I am to be here and how like everyone's been so unbelievably welcoming. I can't even believe I have landed in such a spot where I have been like accepted and loved and cared for so much. I love it. I love that we have this text chain. I love that we keep up with one another outside of school and we're really building relationships and building community. But I need everyone to know that I need to turn my brain off sometimes because anything too much is going to make me melt. And so at night, I just know who I am. I know what I'm about. I know what I need to do. I need to turn off and tune out so I can fill back up. So tomorrow I can get busy. And I was on a text chain too with most of the people were like 22 to 30 years old, not married, going out every night.
Let's even just say this. There's a text chain within this little community and
yeah.
I'm in it and they put CJ in it and he was, no, I can't be in this text chain.
I love you guys. I think it's so wonderful.
It has nothing to do with any of that. And he's just I can't.
They'll probably text him right now.
Well, they did a few minutes ago.
See? And I think it's so great. But I only have so much bandwidth, so much mind share.
But that's about you. And so I think it's really important.
It's 100% about me. It has nothing to do with anyone else.
Right. And I think that's the important piece to communicate when you're like setting that up with with people. It's like, this is about me. This is how I operate as a human being. And that's
y'all are awesome. I just can't do it. And so I would go in and for school, I would just silence it. And then I don't get any of those notifications during the night. And then in the morning, I turn it on. I get like just a million of them. But then I just go to someone else and I go, yo, man, I'm like 50 messages behind.
Kelly, we caught you. Yes, we did. She's texting right now.
Yeah. I go, you got to fill me in. So I would go to like my either my co-teacher, Miss C, or this other woman, Miss Walker, that I worked with. I'd be like, yo, Walker, I don't know what's going on in this thing, but I see it was blowing up last night. What's going on? And then she would fill me in, and then I'm up to date. I know everything that's going on. So that's just how I handle it. I do it with a smile, and I just say, I love you guys. This is so awesome. But, my brain will not work tomorrow if I am constantly engaged. I need to turn off and tune out, and then that's it.
Yeah. And see, it doesn't bother me, right? Like it just doesn't bother me like it does.
No.
It's about knowing you.
Yeah.
And I think if you go at it that way, how can people get mad at you?
And there have been
Some
different
people
seasons in
will.
my life
Sure,
when I could
absolutely.
do that.
Yeah.
But right now, with like having a business and having kids and having multiple pets, it's like I can't.
There's only so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Because
hear
it
you.
causes you to multitask then. And like it just
And we all know
sad.
Reynolds is not good at
you don't
multitasking.
multitask.
Mm-hmm.
You unitasks.
All right. Our next question is from Jose. How do you deal with the drama queens in your class? I feel like we are so used to dealing with disruptive male behaviors. We don't focus on undesirable female behaviors like gossiping, rumors, etc.
So this is such a good question. It's dealing with like that kind of stuff can feel so daunting. My only answer for this I'd love to know what other people are dealing with this too. But sometimes, look, my students know Reynolds loves rumors and gossip, right? I just love it. And it's not because I want drama. I have zero interest in drama. I have zero interest in just talking crap on someone. I have zero interest on like that kind of thing. Like someone leaves the room and then everyone goes, oh my gosh, can you even believe this thing? What I'm interested in gossip and rumors is a lot of times students know stuff before I know stuff. They know that like we might have the day off tomorrow. There's going to be a fire drill, or this teacher is leaving, or someone got in a fight in this room, or there might be a fight. These two kids, like so-and-so was talking to somebody else's girlfriend, and now there's going to be some like a blow up in the bathroom today on the second floor. I love knowing that stuff because then I can do something about it, right? I want to be in the know, and who knows more than students do. But then when it just turns into nonsense, right? And I gauge that. I just do the same thing every time. I go, oh my gosh, that's a great story for later. Anyway, here we go. Or I go, wait, I'm sorry. Are we talking about this right now? Because I feel like what you're trying to do is get in the way of his education. That's it. He's getting in the way of your education. Let's save that for now. I'd love to talk to you about it later or never. But let's get back to like actually what we're here to do. And I just handle it like it's not a big deal, and shut it down. If I need to, I go over to someone and say, hey, this is a really interesting story. I'd love to talk to you about it later. Or I realize that you're really heated about this right now, or you're really worked up about this, but I need to do my job because my kids have to eat and I don't want them to starve. Do you want my kids to starve? Okay, then can you stop talking about this right now? Maybe talk about it at lunch. It's a great story for lunch. And that's how I do it. So I'm sure there's other ways to do it. I like my assistant Edie is constantly saying, I would never say that to someone. So we have to go back and forth.
Your old student is in the chat.
Who?
Lamar, who did awesome stuff. They made a little video or
a
short.
few Lamars.
I know, and I know who it is, but I cannot place his
Do you have a profile pic?
No, it just says L.
Lamar, what's your last name, buddy?
He said a really wonderful comment. He just said, I still talk about you to this day. Mr. Reynolds, you definitely made an impact on my life as well as education going into sophomore year of college. He said you made school very enjoyable, and then he's doing sports management at Kutztown.
Oh, yeah.
Williams. What is his name?
I forget.
Omar?
I'm forgetting the last name too.
Omar.
No, but I know who you're talking about because
Williams.
because that's where Cephas is also.
Yes, I know. And I know his name. I can picture his face.
No.
Glasses.
Awesome. I love it. Look, I'm going to say this on here real
I'm
quick.
gonna
If
feel
you need
silly.
anything, even when you start like working on your major and you're getting really in the thick of it.
Bennett.
What's that? Yeah.
Bennett.
Yes. Awesome.
Yes.
Just hit me up. Let me know. I'd be happy to help you with anything. But that's awesome, man. I love that
Yay.
stuff.
I know. And they pop in so funny when you're on live. Okay, first question. Our next question is from Miss
It's just me
L.
my whole day.
She's asking, are you paying attention?
I am.
All
I'm
right,
just
two-parter. She's asking, I'm thinking of trying to teach in another country for a season, but I feel I may be called to teach in my own country long term. What are your thoughts and advice?
I'll tell you what, Miss L, I taught in Africa, in Zambia I was only there for 2.5 months. it completely changed my life, to the point where I have like a teacher bucket list. And one of my teacher bucket list items is to take students to Africa. And because there's a lot of takeaways. One of the things in the school system, though, was like the students I was teaching, most of the folks at that time in Zambia were living on less than $1 a day. And so it was like $300 a year to go to the school, right? And that was like, what's that?
There you go.
Do you remember
I just want to read
seeing
that
parents like taking their kids to school?
Mm-hmm.
There was a mattress behind a donkey that was being drugged to the school with the kid and all their stuff on it. That's how they transported it, right? They didn't show up in the minivan and unload to college. And it was like, get the mini fridge out. They had to make all their own food. So if you wanted chicken, you had to pluck a chicken, you had to cook it, you had to do all your own laundry. None of the classrooms had lights in them. None of them had windows in them. A lot of students didn't have desks. Students were 50 to 60 in a class, and many of the seats didn't have the seat part on it. So the kid was like literally sitting in a hole. I mean, I could go on and on and on. To see that and come back to the U.S., even in your poorest school, it doesn't make it okay to have schools that are that utterly poor, even especially in the U.S., right? Where there's more than enough money to take care of that issue. But it is, to me, it shifted my brain and made me so unbelievably grateful for where I get to teach, even when the places I teach are not optimal. It changed my life in 1,000 ways. And so that's what that kind of made me think of immediately. So I think that it's a great idea. And if that's what you feel called to do, then look, here's how I feel about callings. Our job is to pick up the phone, right? If you're being called and then you do, I just do it. Like,
yeah. So here's her second part. I'm not sure I quite understand.
Yeah.
She says, question part 2, maybe it's just a separate question, but just a second question. She says, I worked in corporate business for a long time, then studied / felt called into teaching, thinking of time out of teaching to earn more pay, pay off debts and catch my breath. Thoughts?
This is 100% what we were just talking about the other day with this new idea that we have.
Oh, yes.
Should I talk about that for just a second? And I can speak to the answer too.
Sure.
I'm not talking about it in depth, but
so we're not beholden to anything. Everything is.
I do think that, the tough part about teaching is that, like, we cannot live off of my teaching salary. Like, I can't. So my wife stays home. She homeschools our kids. If we didn't have our business, which makes it so funny when people comment. I hit so few negative comments on YouTube, but every once in a while it's like, oh, it's another advertisement. There's another paid sponsorship. And it's like, there has to be. Like, I am putting out so much free content that that actually costs me money to put out. There has to be paid ads so that I can live.
I don't think people understand the overhead sometimes. Like, YouTube is free, but it's like, a better sound. We bought a microphone, a boom arm, a light. There's just like,
and it's, you know what?
It's great.
We
love it.
It's my pleasure to do it. I love doing it. I love.
It's fun, but that's not a complaint. It's just a reality.
Yeah,
there is an overhead, and
you own a construction company. You got to buy hammers and saws. Right? It's the same thing with this. Anyway, my point is that it is very hard once you build that debt to get out of it, and sometimes on a teacher salary you can't do it. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I just am wondering if there's a different way that you could use the skills you have in school to do something else. So, like, one of the things that we've been trying to do and really thinking about this year was hiring on teachers to try to provide, so they can provide for their families, right? So it would meet a need of ours as a company, but then they'd also be able to, like, make money doing what they love already, and then, provide for their families. But then we're also dreaming about this business idea. This is something we're praying about right now, where we want to start doing more boot camps and things of that nature to help people in the classroom. But then we have this other branch we're thinking about. We're like, we've learned how to make money doing this. And it's not impossible, right? It's not even hard necessarily. It's a lot of work, but it's like, we would help people fast track because we've already learned how to do all this stuff. You don't have to do 6 years of doing this to figure it out. But what would it look like if we taught teachers how to create content, how to create resources, YouTube videos, Instagram accounts, things of that, like that are you are doing this thing, but you're doing it from home. So you don't have to work 9 to 5 for someone else. You can work for yourself and make disproportionately more doing that than you would working a 9 to 5 elsewhere. I just think that that's something I'd love to be able to do for teachers. So that's something we're praying about at the moment to see if that's what we want to do.
Yeah, like where we grow into for sure. But Go By Bike just said how many teachers work during work something else during the summer. Any ideas to think about for next year, part-time, full-time, right? That's the same point that we're talking about. It's like a lot of times it's a sad fact that teachers have to supplement income. A lot of them do. Not everybody does because they have other partners and people that pay into their life or whatever. But that's just a sad fact that a lot of people do. And so I think it's hard to remember how your skills always translate. And there's so many teachers that have businesses now, or the educators in the world of business, that teachers really that they're always needing people to help them do and run their business. And especially if it's in education, it's like teachers could just help business owners. I think there's a natural,
so you don't have to be an entrepreneur, you can be an intrapreneur.
Right. You're helping another business grow, but in your wheelhouse, which is, so it comes naturally to you. You don't have to leave your house potentially. You can do it from home, like all those sort of things. I think that's an avenue that I wish more teachers would explore for jobs, because I know in ours, there's a real need for it. Like, we have more things to do than we have time to do them. And we can only grow.
I don't even have time to ask people right now.
Yeah, facts, right? We don't.
So
but that's a great way to make secondary income if if you need it. So there, we answered your question. Bye bike or Go By Bike.
It's a great profile.
All right, I have to find another question.
Do you want me to sing for a second?
No, I got one. Thank goodness. Thank you, Wendy. She says, "Hi, CJ. How are you? I saw this TED Talk from Azul. Somebody, what makes a good teacher great? He collected 26,000 responses to this question. What would your answer be?"
Oh my gosh.
Lots of love from Belgium.
What would the question be? Oh, what makes a great teacher?
What makes a good teacher great? What makes a good teacher great?
I think what makes a good teacher great, we have to look that up too.
Yeah, I'm going to look it up. That's a great question.
Gosh, there's a lot of things. I think teachers that I've seen that have been great, what sets them apart is, one, they are authentically them. They don't try to be something else, right? So don't try to be funny if you're not funny. Don't try and be mean if you're not mean. It has to be authentic. That has to be the starting place. Anyway, I fake it a lot of days. There's days I don't feel like teaching. There's days that I have to act like what you did was really, how could you do that? And I have to act it out a little bit. But that's one. I think teachers that are able to really teach the students that are in front of them, not who they thought would show up, but who showed up. Teaching that class, that generation, that age group, I think that really helps a lot too. I think teachers that make connections with their students, right? This is why the part of the boot camp is on building relationships. It is so paramount to your classroom management, to your success, to keeping students engaged. This idea of deeply connecting in an authentic and meaningful way with students. I'm not talking about being friends. I'm talking about creating meaningful connection changes everything in your classroom. And so those are a few big things. And then I think the other, if I was going to think of one more that just popped in my head, it's making what you're teaching relevant. But that's another thing. You have to know your students to be relevant to them. It can't just be relevant to what you think is relevant, but it is to taking kids into consideration and then having that inform your practices, your pedagogy, your procedures, all of that in class changes everything.
All right, our next question is coming from De La Classroom. How do you handle students who are constantly tardy, specifically a class period that is not due to getting dropped off late?
Okay, so kids that are just late to class all the time. There's a couple of ways. If I'm in the hallway, can you hand me that?
Oh,
please, my friend. This microphone's under construction, but if you guys have not seen these, we used to sell these on our website, and now we cannot find them anywhere to customize them. So if anyone knows anyone in the plastics industry, please hit me up. But I would interview kids in the hallway. Oh, here he comes again. Joe, real quick. Our viewers are wondering, what's it like to be late every single day? and then you put the microphone in Joe's face, and then he does not want to talk to you. Every once in a while, you have a kid that will answer your question, but they're like, oh my gosh, they just hurry up and go late, hurry up to get to class. I used to have a friend of mine in the hallway that had his watch specifically timed to when the class was going to begin. So he would tell kids, yo, you got 20 seconds. There's 10 seconds left. There's 5 seconds left. There's 2 seconds
That's
left.
a great idea.
And it would help to motivate kids. You didn't yell at them. You know, it wasn't like that doesn't motivate anyone, or not in the right way anyway. The other thing is my class starts immediately as soon as the bell rings. Like I'm in the hallway shaking hands. When the bell rings, I am inside and the timer starts. So there's an actual timer for the beginning of class, right? So like for the bell ringer or the do now or whatever you want to call it. And it's like 5 minutes generally. And so if you come in late, you can't go back and do it, right? Like if you missed it, it's a wrap unless you have a legitimate pass. And we all know what legitimate passes are. Those are passes that come from people that don't just give passes to a kid because they asked for it. So if someone's screwing around the hallway and they know that Mr. Jones, the tech guy, or Mr. Simmons, the hallway monitor, will just write a pass for anything because they don't even think about it, or they don't really care, or they are just trying to get along with the kids. I know who not to take passes from. So I've told kids in the past, like, if a pass comes in from a certain person, I say it out loud because that's what I do. I go, I don't take passes from Mr. Simmons. You know that you didn't even ask. Like, it's just like you weren't late because you were talking to him about anything meaningful. But then kids are missing the assignment. You have to be in class to get the stuff. And if you're not in class and you're missing it. Now, if you do have a legitimate pass, talk to me after class. I'll get you caught up. No problem. All I want for you is success. But kids knowing that you're going to miss something and that the train is all, it's like, we don't stop the movie because you were late. Even if you call the theater, please, 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 I'm just running a couple of minutes late. No, the movie starts and then you missed it. And then you got to figure it out online. Like, what the hell just happened? And so that's how I view my class and with those things. Now, look, there are exceptions for this. There are students that take longer to get to class. There are kids that have medical issues. There are kids that are on crutches, kids that have, I know my boy can't do almost anything. My own son can't do anything on time. He is like, we'll walk down the hallway and there's 19 things going on. Hey, how are you today? And like, it's a processing thing, right? That's different, right? But fair isn't equal. But so every time that kid comes in late, I don't care. It's like, thanks so much for being here. Here's the work. This is what we're doing. And even if kids are like,
glad you made it.
how come he never gets in trouble? I'm not even talking about that. I'm not talking about him with you. I'm talking about you with you. And if you really want to have this conversation, show up after school and we can have like a larger conversation about it. But like, I'm not talking about my man's business with you. Like, no. But that's how I handle it.
Excellent. All right. Our next question comes from Enjoy Life. I enjoy being a lone wolf as a teacher. The word collaboration brings chills down my spine. I bring my creativity and work ethic to each classroom, and the majority of students enjoy the class. Oh,
there's got to be a second part, unless they were just letting us know.
Shucks. Oh, yeah, continued. Right. The only negative comment I received from the administration was that I needed to collaborate more. Not my jam.
Why do you have to collaborate more?
I wonder if they asked why. I wonder if you would have asked those folks that told you that, if you would have asked why and what they would have said.
So what's the reason for collaborating more?
I know.
If that's not your jam, right? Like, I love collaboration. I love talking to people. Whenever we go out for anything at school, I am the last person to leave. I can't get enough of it. But that's just who I am. But like, I would never tell someone they have to, like, if you're bringing your A game and you're doing everything that you can and you're a great teacher and your students love you and they know that you're about them and they know that you're doing good work, like, you don't have to do anything else. Like, that's just not what some people's personalities are. And this is what I'm talking about. It's like being authentically you, because then what are they going to get? They're going to get the super awkward version of you, like in a collaboration where I don't really know what we're supposed to do now. Because it's like, what? If you're really great in the kitchen, doesn't mean you should be a good farmer also. Like, it's like, oh man, if you could only farm, what? No, I'm good at cooking stuff. I'm not farming. So I think you be authentic to you, but it's about you being really secure with your why and knowing what you're about. If you feel some inkling there, like maybe they're right and that's maybe why it's bothering you, that might be something to talk to someone about. But overall, no way, man. And that's coming from super extroverted, you should be teaching as a communal activity guy. But like, if it's not your jam, it's not your jam.
Wonder if like I wonder if collaboration is not necessarily like collaborating with like making like for what's happening in the classroom, like teaching materials and planning and that sort of stuff. Maybe it's just even general like team spirity, like connectivity,
So,
like
right.
like that kind of like.
But I do think
stuff.
about, is there something to consider, right? Something to think about if you're going full lone wolf status.
I just think like community building versus like, you don't have to just collaborate to build, like collaborate to like, collaboration means like we're building and working on something together, right? But like, are they just wanting, I don't know, connected? Like,
so let me say this, 2 things real quick. One, or as fast as
clear.
It's Reynolds quick, which generally means not fast at all. But anyway, I, as much as I love fun and nonsense and silliness, whenever we do like a group, like a team building activity, I cannot stand them.
Yeah, you're not an icebreaker. You get asked for like, what are your icebreakers? And you're like, I don't do any.
I immediately have to go to the bathroom or important phone call. Hello, this is important phone call. I got you. I'm on my way now. Do you like how the transition? This is the phone now. We used to do this. Now we do this movement. Anyway, I can't stand them. I don't know what it is about it. I just don't like it. I don't like manufactured fun. I just like spontaneous fun. And the other thing is that's worth considering is, do you have something amazing to give, to share, to put out to other people that would make their lives better, make their students' existence better, make school better? But because you're not sharing it, you're not collaborating, it's making your school not as great as it could be. That's something worth considering. But then you have to figure out your delivery system, how you want to do that, when you want to do that, if you can do that. That's a logistical issue, but it's, are you holding back greatness that you could bless the world with, but you're not doing that because you're not collaborating? That's worth, I think, sitting down with and thinking about.
Yes. I'm sorry. I was reading about, everyone's discussing your picture in the back. Someone asked who it was. And
Feeney?
Yeah, someone said it was from Saved by the Bell. And then everyone's like, no,
that's Mr. Belding. This is Mr. Feeney.
Wait, you know the principal's name from Saved by the Bell? What is it?
Mr. Belding.
No. Of course you do.
Here's a good question. I don't want to flood the comments, but this is worth asking. Who's your favorite fictional teacher of all time? Best fictional teacher of all time.
Well, we already know your answer.
Mine's Feeney.
Mm-hmm. All right, I think this is a question. There's just not a cue.
I'd get a Feeney tattoo.
All right, are you ready? Can I actually?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay,
I'll
Trenton
stop saying Feeney.
Is asking, I was thinking of having students take turns bringing in a news article and writing discussion questions for small groups in the class, then moving the discussion to the whole class. Thoughts on this?
I love it. I would say I did a deal with Scholastic once, and they had, what the hell was their publication called? And you can get it online or you can get them sent to the school.
They have multiple ones, but you're talking about for high school.
Yeah, it was called, I forget. But it was like all hot button topics that were really relevant and really new. I think that's awesome. And I think for a couple of things. One, it's student directed. 2, you're giving voice to students and making them speak back there. Like, if you think about the rate at which kids are hit with news, right? Like, even when you watch the news, right? I'm watching a baseball game last night. I'm watching a Phillies game last night. And there are scores going across the bottom. There's pop-ups for the news that are happening. There's 75 other I'm just trying to watch a baseball game. I don't want to know what the weather's going to be tomorrow, or that there was a shooting somewhere, or the president got a new dog. I don't care about that right now. We're doing baseball time. And so there's so much stuff that comes at kids. I think it's important to have kids speak back to it, speak truth back to some of that stuff, to digest it. What we're doing is helping kids to digest and to thoughtfully consume content, information, news, instead of just having it spoke back at them. You know, even at the gym, when we're on the treadmill, there's like 97 TVs in Planet Fitness, and it's like so many things happening at one time. Like, dude, I don't even want to look at any of this crap, man. So I'm trying to be here now. I think that's a really great idea. I think it also promotes student voice. It helps students to learn how to communicate, how to actively listen to what's going on. And if you can connect what you're doing in class to that, now you just took relevancy to like the ultimate level where it's like, no, this is actually meaningful to me right now. And I think it also allows students to look outside of themselves because, look, and this is no fault of their own, but so many, like, especially teenagers are like so self-consumed that it's like having you think about other people and other spaces and places. And I think that that's a freaking great idea.
All right. It's 2. And I want to get this question in before we talk about all the results that flooded my comment section.
Got it.
Ryan is asking, this year I'm going to be a floater teacher in a different classroom every period. What tips do you have to create a classroom environment without a consistent room and time taken out for travel?
Ryan, I think that you are it. You don't need a classroom to do that. You become the event, right? It's like there's this really great quote, and I forget where I heard it from, but it said, you know what I'm going to say?
No, I'm just thinking you have an R in your name and you're rolling, get on a car. There's still many alliterations you can make.
You're making dad jokes right now?
I know. I can't help it. I know. Well, you're in my head, so I can't help it.
I inspired you. I've been your Feeny.
Oh, geez.
So it is, I'm thinking about, that takes me down a whole nother route, but immediately someone said this quote, you're responsible for the energy you bring into the room. And I love that idea because when I go to a meeting, whether it's with one person or the whole staff, when I walk into the classroom, when I walk in to the bar, when I go in for dinner with people, I'm constantly thinking, right? Like I love this idea of Walt Disney had this idea of surprise and delight. And so that's why, and I may have talked about this recently in a video or on here or something, but if you go to Disney World, there at 2:30, there's a full-on parade that's just happening in the street, and no one was told about it. It wasn't like on a list. You didn't know that it was going to happen. That there's all these moments that they just love to surprise and delight people. So that coupled with this idea of I'm responsible for the energy I bring into every room. I want to show up in let that be kids' favorite part of the day. Like what? Like Mr. Nadell kid just is like coming in and like, dude, he's awesome. Like, oh yes. Oh, you're in here today. Oh yes. Fantastic. It's bringing that in. And that can look like it's part paying attention to kids. It's part seeing kids for who they are, making kids that think they're invisible, visible, loving on kids in a way that they like, right? So not everyone's a high five. Some people are a Post-it note that says a silent message on it, right? But it's you are changing the energy, the vibe in the room that you're in. I think that coupled with, I would use that floating time as like, I always said, like a lot of teachers lament and I've worked with teachers that lament that they are the cart teacher. They have to push a cart around. Yo, I'd have the most bumping cart that ever existed, man. It would be music and bubbles, and it would be like a party in the hallway that was like, on the way to where I was going, right? It would just like, that's what I'm thinking in terms of that. So like, even if that's just you walking down the hallway in transition, like, what are you doing? Are you blowing bubbles? Are you throwing confetti at kids? Are you high-fiving people? Is there music playing from like a speaker that's attached to your belt? Like whatever it is, let it be a thing where it's like you're people know you're coming before you even get there because they can feel the vibe change. I just think that's where I would start with that. And that I love those exciting challenges. And here's why. Because I think that, I talk about this in my book, this TED talk by Phil Hansen that says like the majority of it is boiled down to he got out of art school, was able to buy all the art supplies he wanted, and his creativity was stifled. But when he found out, when he limited his resources, when he limited his ability, he didn't have the time, the space, the supplies to do the stuff, it made him more creative. And I think that is, that's where hip hop is birthed out of. That's where punk rock is birthed out of. That's where a lot of, the blues is birthed out of. It is this idea of like, let's take these limited resources and then let's see what we can do with it. Dude, I love that. I love that stuff. It's like it becomes like a cocky moment. It's like a watch me moment. You're not
like
going to
a
be able to.
challenge,
You're not
yeah.
going to be able to do that. You can't do that with these kids. You're not going to be able to go there. You can't raise that money. The kids won't read that book. And then in my head, I'm just thinking, watch me. And then you do it, and bam, love. I don't even need anyone to know I did it. I just know that I did it. Are we done?
Yeah.
You got one more?
No, we're done. We're
Cool.
done. I mean, there's a lot more, and I hate
Always.
leaving them. That always makes me feel bad.
But it's time to go bake a cake. We're going to go bake a cake with Marley right now.
That's right.
So look, before we go, if you're interested or anyone else you know is interested, we are doing this event on Tuesday and Wednesday nights, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for 45 minutes or an hour, where we are doing a back-to-school boot camp focused on two things I think are the most important thing that schools don't focus enough time on, and that is meaningful classroom management, like stuff that actually works, not just like make sure you're using hallway passes and writing kids up and logging in Power School and that kind of stuff. It's like these are things that actually work, and building relationships, because I don't think those two things can come apart. We probably should have done two whole different trainings on both of those, but we know it's time sensitive. We know some people are already back in school when others of you still have a minute to go, but we're rolling that out this Tuesday. There is a link somewhere. I'll put it under this video that you can go to get admission to it and for sign up. And then you'll still have it for 60 days afterwards. Like doesn't just go away. It's not once and done. So if you can't make it, or if the time doesn't work for you because you live somewhere else in the world or you have something else going on, you can come back, watch it, and that will be there for the next 60 days for you to check out.
Laura's asking the cost for the boot camp. Laura, there's 3 different levels. The first one starts at 67.
67 gets you admission both nights, 60 days of that stuff. Level 2 is 107, I want to say. You get a Q&A afterwards, 30-minute Q&A after both sessions, and I'll answer any question that you want on a private Zoom call.
And tons of
resources. Get all the resources. Anything I talk about, from seating charts to projects to rubrics to parent emails, you get all that stuff is included in the price.
Level
indefinitely.
3,
that doesn't go away.
Level 3 is 127, I believe, or 137.
It's 137, and that is all the other stuff. And you get a follow-up mentee session, right? So like we're going to have small Zoom calls with no more than 10 people in them, where we're going to meet with educators and answer your questions for, 30, 45 minutes, whatever it is. And that's going to be like in a month or so from now, right? So like what we want to do is you roll it out, you choose the resources, you try all the stuff, show up in like 30 days or so. That's the time frame we're thinking about right now anyway. And what questions do you have to follow up with? What worked? What didn't work? What do you need help to pivot on? And so what we're trying to do is really, really help teachers start the year off being the teachers they are called to be, walking into the classroom, being confident, being excited, and feeling like you have this a little bit under your control because you know what next steps you need to take to be great this year. So that's what we're doing. That's this Tuesday and Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Anything else?
No, I'm having a hot flash. Whew.
You are?
Yeah, it's time to go open the door.
All right. I'm going to go before my wife catches on fire. That's it, gang. We'll see you Tuesday and Wednesday, I hope. And if not, we'll see you next Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Oh, there's a lot of you that are having your first day of school tomorrow because it's Monday. So have a great day.
Yes. Have an awesome day. And I could not be more excited for you. So
Yay.
That's it, right?
Yep.
Cool.
Bye, everyone.
Peace.